What's up, everybody? Back again here for episode 2 of the BTB podcast, Bald to Bald. I'm here with TJ Jones. I'm Shane Taggart. And, recapping this episode today is going to be the quarterfinals round from this past weekend and a little bit of a preview for what we're going to see here for championship weekend. Not the best weekend of lacrosse. I think we can both agree on that. But looking ahead to next week as well, it might not even be that great of another weekend either with kind of the matchups. I know, we were texting during the games a lot, and initial thoughts. What were your reaction to the games?
I mean, I agree with you. Like, it seems like Rutgers Penn was the only game really worth watching. It's tough to see lacrosse in this state, and we go back to last week we were kind of bashing the ACCs for being all whiny and complaining about not being in the tournament. And it seems like this year, these games just aren't as exciting as maybe it would have been if it was, Duke, Notre Dame, UNC in the tournament. And then, elephant in the room, it's pretty much a competition this weekend for whoever gets to get a chance to try and beat Maryland. And it's really just, do you want to go be embarrassed on national TV on Memorial Day? I mean, we'll get into it, but it's definitely an interesting weekend ahead.
Yeah, and even the first game of the weekend, Penn Rutgers, I thought that was the game of the week by far. Really unbelievable goalie play by Birkinshaw of Penn and Colin Kirst for Rutgers. He's clearly I would say the best goalie remaining. He's the hottest goalie remaining as well. And with you playing goalie and me not ever taking a shot in my life, every save he makes just looks so effortless and very casual, and then his outlets are always on point. They lead to transition where Knobloch and Ross Scott have kind of been the 1-2 punch as of late, and those two are going to just now be up against the Cornell defense, which has been pretty good. They kind of limited what Delaware was going to do in that game, besides Delaware shooting themselves in the foot, but
I think
this game's going to be interesting because Rutgers has one of the best specialists remaining, but their faceoff guy also just got steamrolled in that game, and they're lucky that they could have won this game with that faceoff percentage even.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, Kirst is the best goalie available, and that's why he went. He was one of 2 goalies drafted in the PLL this year. So
yeah,
it's amazing to watch him play.
Jersey guy.
Shout out to Jersey guys.
That's just pumping the New Jersey stock even more too.
Pump the brand. New Jersey is the lacrosse hotbed of America. That's just what it is.
Hey, Pennsylvania, how many teams do you have in the Final Four?
0.
New Jersey's got 2. And if Monmouth wasn't a joke, maybe one day they get in there and we get all 3.
Who knows? No, but like I was saying, we talked about this last week, the specialist battle is going to come down to Kirst winning for Rutgers and the Zusi guy winning for Penn, and it's played out exactly how we thought it would. I never felt that Rutgers was out of this game, or I never felt worried about them covering the 1.5 that we had them at. It was just easy from the get-go. It went back and forth a little bit, but like I said, I was never worried about it. It's amazing to watch Kirst play. I hope he can win a national championship. I look forward to watching him in the PLL this summer, but it was never really a game, even if it was close.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And obviously the storyline, the Kirst Bowl with CJ winning for Cornell as well. And that's going to be like Jared Goff that's going to be like Kershaw and Stafford went to high school together.
Yeah.
It's going to be that type of game with the Kirst boys. But just the kind of the final notes with Penn and Rutgers was Rutgers black uniforms. I think they got to go red and white. I think that screams way more Rutgers. The overall, Penn didn't score in the first quarter. Rutgers scored with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. So it was a defensive battle, which you want to be playing your best ball down the stretch. And, I think Sam Hanley, he was getting a lot of love before the game. And now it's he had a good season, but to not score a goal, miss a lot of opportunities, and then, 3 assists on the day is nice, but I don't think he wins a Tewaaraton now. I think he kind of played himself out.
No way. I mean, it's tough
Yeah.
to like. I mean, you have to give it. I feel like at this point, you have to give it to the best player on the best team, and that's Wisnauskas. It's almost crazy to think that, Chris Gray is a finalist, and he's not even playing, but
Yeah.
he's the all-time leading point scorer. Like, if you're comparing Chris Gray to Lyle Thompson, it's not even close. Like, it's just crazy to think that he's a Tour-a-thon finalist and he's not even in the games. Like, he's not even on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. And that just, kind of the final send there from that game would just be, Colin Kirst now at 55% on the year. If he can play hot and kind of hold the Cornell attack and their transition game, they might get a third rematch with Maryland, but we'll get to that later. But, transitioning to that, the 2:30 game on Saturday between Princeton and Yale, I thought this game was going to be Yale by a lot, and boy was I wrong. Princeton in that second quarter really kind of just took over, and Yale just looked really sloppy. Like, anytime they had a chance to get back in the game and make it like a 1-goal or 2-goal game, pass out of bounds, like shot over the net, failed clear. Like, it was like just the steamrolling effect of these negative plays really just took them out of the game. And, Battle of the Stars, like we previewed, like Chris Brown for Princeton goes 1 for 2, and they have a balanced attack with English and, Christian Ronda, Alexander Vidaro, and they have multiple guys scoring goals. But you look at Yale, and your best player, 99 points on the year, Matt Brandau, goes 1-1 and shoots 14%. Like, you're not going to win if Brandau has 2 points. Leo Johnson, 2 assists. Chris Lyons, 2 goals. So Yale's attack wasn't there. They decided to show up when they played St. Joe's, which you just hate to see. But they definitely looked tired after that track meet last week up in New Haven.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think like we mentioned last week, it came down to that Yale, offensive attack that is really young. Like we talked about last week, 3 freshmen who are like serious contributors. Granted, Brad Sharp? He had a good game, but I just feel like in the end they're just a little inexperienced. Like, they get out to a 3-1 lead.
Bunch of puppies, and listen, like the Ivy canceled their season last year. Then you have COVID, so even like the juniors and seniors on your team, the last thing they remember is playing in the NCAA tournament, and
right.
Being in this would have been 3 Final Fours in 4 playing years, which would have put them in that elite category. But speaking of elite and kind of keeping the hot goalie train rolling, like, shout out to Jared Paquette. Like, I know we were giving it to him in New Haven. You could hear the Princeton student or alumni section, which was amazing, by the way. They were loud the whole game, just Jared, and like the kid had 59 saves, and or 59% saves, and he had 20 saves. And then Eric Peters has 63% save percentage, 17 saves. Like, these guys are getting peppered all game.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, shout out to Jared. We gave him it. The Princeton team gave him it. I love that he could face the adversity and still play well. But when you look at the Princeton offensive attack, they had 9 different goal scorers. Like, that's a recipe for success. If you're scouting that team, it's like, who are we putting our polls on? Who's the best players on the team? If they can get that balance of attack versus Maryland, maybe they have a shot. But I feel like Yale, got out to the early lead, and then that young group just got beat up, and it turned into a game of runs, like lacrosse is. It's a game of runs, and Princeton just came out on top, and that's just is what it is. For the record, though, I am never letting the Restivo family change my mind on lacrosse games. I had Princeton -1.5, literally going into the game the previous weekend. So I got in on the line early, had them at -1.5. And I'm like, I don't know about this. It was a risky game. And I got Tuna and Mike both telling me, dude, Yale's got this one. Princeton ain't it. And look at that. I think this might be the second or third time that family's talked me out of a game. And
more so Tuna.
So I'm done.
Way more on Tuna's part, though.
It's definitely on Tuna.
Even that, though, like, kind of looking at the Princeton team, now they have a rematch now with Maryland, which is going to be great. And we'll get to that on the second half of the show. But even, the first time they're in the Final Four since 2004, which is great. Like, they're an all-time program in Division I, so it's nice to kind of see the black and orange back on Memorial Day weekend, which is sweet. But their face-off battle right now, like Sandoval, 33%. I thought it was hilarious, by the way. My kind of two off-the-record things were Princeton has a face-off guy that was number 99. That's hilarious. Like, that number looks so goofy in college lacrosse, really. Like, why are you 99? There's so many other numbers you could have. And he kind of, he went, 6 of 7, Kobe Ginder.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I'm going to say about this Princeton team going into Maryland is if they roll out with that dusty uniform combo that they had this weekend, I hope they lose. I mean, that's just typical Ivy League. It's almost like they live in the fucking 70s for some reason. And whoever thought of that uniform combo needs to be fired. And I think with that, we just got to move on from that.
Yeah, and I think to wrap up, just between Princeton and Yale, those uniforms stink. I'm a fan of the black and orange, but you got to have it more cleaned up than that. Just go with the traditionals, like play the hits. It's really simple. It's really simple to have a clean uniform. Like, I think that was a bad look, but it got them the win. And then that kind of leads to, the last remaining Ivy League team here with us, with Cornell kind of holding off Delaware, where, it's one of those games that you have with Cornell's the better team. They have the better players. And it showed in crunch time when Delaware couldn't buy a clear in the fourth quarter to get them out of there. Like, they were like the first, I think I had it written down, like 6 of Cornell's goals were all scored right in front of the crease, like just getting layup, whether it was off ball cuts, slot, like beating their guy, redodging, getting under score, or all really good takes in front of the net. And you saw Delaware have to really earn their goals, and then obviously they couldn't clear at the end. Yeah. But then that, I wanted to ask you about was looking at this past game. Like, Ty Kirst for Delaware has 5 goals on 14 shots. And, their next two leading shots were coming from Clay Miller and Mike Robinson, who each had, 6 shots on cage, but pretty bad shooting percentage overall compared to Cornell, where they have guys in the 60%, 67%, 100% shooting. And Delaware's got guys at 36, 0, 33.
I think the fact that Cornell was able to hold JP Ward and Robinson to 0 goals is why they won. All of their offense comes from their attack. You got Ty Kirst, who had 5 goals. He's more of like a spot shooter, inside finisher. Yeah. Like, he's not much of that dodger. But they all kind of play off of each other. And the fact that JP Ward and Robinson had 0 goals, you had 3 goals from Beta. I think he was their second leading scorer. I think he was.
So Beta had 3 assists, but then you also have a goal coming from Owen Grant, the Pole CAA Defender of the Year. Like, so if he doesn't score that, take one off the board. Yeah, that's a tough offensive production, but that's also tipping your cap to Cornell and what Coach Busett's been able to do with that team. Right. But last week we saw CJ Kirst have to really step up for the attack. This week, Michael Long goes 1-2, Piatelli goes 3-0, and some other guys are able to score for that team. But that even just leads to, kind of the narrative that the goalie play has been insane. Another game where both guys are over 55%. Chase Erlin, TD's younger brother, 65 save percentage. Like, they're going to need that against Rutgers and those bad boys from New Jersey. But still a shout out to Matt Kilcarry, 55%.
Yeah, I think
staring down a lot of shots on the crease.
Yeah, I think both goalies played well. I was impressed with Kilcarry just because he doesn't have the big name. He's not somebody who people look to as a top goalie in the country, but I think he's been playing really well over the past couple of games. So shout out to him. And I think, Chase Erlin played a hell of a game, and it's good to see him kind of get hot, because earlier in the year they were playing some better teams, and he got pulled against Syracuse, he got pulled against another game. Like he's had an up and down season, but if Cornell can be steady and he can be steady in cage, they have the firepower to compete. They came out of the Ivy League. They went into some battles this year and they're battle tested. So I don't
weird swag out of him too.
I don't put it past them to put up a game against Rutgers.
Yeah, Erlin also like the black mesh, like sweatpants, looks like really weird, and he just looks like a weirdo. But I mean, there's 70 Division I teams that would take a goalie playing that well right now. Like, just look weird if you're a goalie. Like,
you just got to be weird if you're a goalie.
Yeah, and I think that also would lead to, with kind of this episode just being like really based off these specialists stepping up, but like, Cornell's faceoff guy Angelo Peterakis goes 79%. Like, that's insane. Like, and for them to barely win this game and they have the ball, 80% of the time and you win by 2, that's great from that perspective. From, you won the special teams battle by a very large margin, but on the offensive end, like, you only get 10 goals out of that. And then on the defensive end, like, yeah, you kept them to under 10, which that's not going to happen these next 2 games. Like, all the teams remaining can put up points. So I think that's really, and obviously we touched on it earlier today, but like now CJ is going against his older brother, like who knows him even better, which that's going to be sweet when he scores. I know it happened last year when Cole Kirst played against Rutgers. And there's the 3 of them, which is, pretty sweet. So that'll be on the preview side, but T, kind of bringing us home to the last game of the weekend, which, I got Cornell also minus. I mean, I didn't win a game this weekend. Loser. Like 0-4. Like what a joke that guy is. But this Maryland team is since I've been playing lacrosse since 6th grade and watching, like, this team's a machine. Like
it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. If you're watching today, we might put this up on a podcast channel, so you might be just listening to it. But if you're watching today, this team in my background here, shout out to the 1996 Bucknell team. Fun fact, they were the only undefeated team in college lacrosse history to not make the NCAA tournament. That's why I'm giving them respect right now. But, to look at the undefeated teams that have been, in college lacrosse since its time, it's hard to think that Maryland isn't one of the best. Recently, I guess in our time, you've got Kyle Harrison and Hopkins in 2005, and then you have UVA in 2006. Wild that it was back-to-back years when we had undefeated seasons and national champions. But you heard me last week. I thought UVA was going to give them a run for their money. I had them at plus 4.5, and we couldn't have been more wrong. That was terrible.
That game, I think, was over when Wisnauskas decked that wing player on the opening faceoff. Like, he cracked him, and UVA comes down and they get like the first goal of the game. And you're like, all right, like, this team's healthy. Like, Schellenberger's going to ball out this time. Matt Moore's going to ball out this time. See, they had 5 guys in the box score for offensive points. Like Jeff Connor, he shot the ball pretty well from, those low wing spots. And, you look at Maryland on the stat sheet and you have to scroll up and down the page. Like, it's DeMayo, Wisnauskas, Murphy, Donville, Kyle Long, like Keaton Kahn, and Daniel Moss. Like, you just go down the list and you just keep naming guys. You're like, oh yeah, they have him. Like, Anthony DeMayo played when we played. Like, he is a 6th year, won a national championship in 2017 and redshirted. So he was on that team. Like, that's
wild.
And he's, I know other people have said he's like he's a very angry shooter, but I think Owen Murphy at the point on some of those faceoffs, like, he was catching the ball and they're up like 2 goals. He shoots, all right, goal. All right, now we're up 3. Goal, we're up 4. And it's like I did it last week, but it's like, all right, next team in, smash, next team in. Like, they're a PLL team. Like, they have so many guys drafted. They could probably hang in that lead for a little bit. And we're not even talking, like, their offense was great. Like, Wisnauskas, I think, just locked up the Tewaaraton. Like, you're the best player on the best team. undefeated season. Like, you're going to keep rolling, but we haven't even gotten to the two, I would even say the three best guys that Maryland has. And that's Luke Weirman at the X going 69% and getting them the ball. And then Zapatello and Makar, they should record this game. They should put it out on a DVD, and they should send that out and make money off an NIL deal, because they played they didn't get beat.
And we talked about it last week. We were like, again, more to us being wrong. We were like, if Makar, whoever takes Matt Moore and Schellenberger, if Makar can hold them to nothing, like, that's
which he pretty much did.
Which, yeah, he held him to 1-1, which I'm not shocked about, but Brett's the man and he's nasty. And then Zapatello, first name Ajax, first of all name team. Second of all, the fact that he could hold Schellenberger scoreless is just insane to think about. A Tewaaraton finalist scoreless in a quarterfinal game, like, it's just unbelievable to think. Like, it's unbelievable to think that they have this many, assets and like PLL type players on this team.
Yeah, and like, even like Geppert on that one play picks up a disgusting ground ball, throws it to Wisnauskas, and it was pretty much just like, yeah, I'm just gonna dunk this real quick. Like they look effortless, and they know they're good too, and they are so focused. Like they said before the game, they're like, this team's ended our season so many times, and we just want to beat this team. Like, they just kicked the shit out of this team. Like, if they play another 9 times or 8 times now, I think Maryland wins every single one, and it's not even close. Like, oh, Petey LaSalle is going to give Weirman a run for his money. Get out. You just got.
I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, like, and listen, a lot of these guys have had way better playing careers than I have, so I have no shame in saying this. But like, yo, you're the back-to-back defending champs, and you just got, like, Maryland walked you in, they rocked you to sleep, patted you on the back, and gave you a nap. Like, you guys they got smacked, and it sucks to see, because we all thought this was going to be like the game. Like, I tweeted earlier, I was like, this game's going to be great, and I ended up falling asleep on the couch in the fourth quarter. Like, woke up kind of where am I? And it's like, oh, Maryland won. Like, shocker.
Yeah. So, every other weekend, it's just the same old weekend in the college lacrosse. I mean, yeah, there's nothing more to say here from my end.
I also thought, from a uniform perspective, I thought Maryland, with the murdered out black helmets, like, they should go all black. Like, they're the Terminator.
It's their look. It's totally their look. I mean, they rocked that all black look, and I'm pretty sure they rocked it on Sweeney Field when we got smashed in our senior year.
Yeah,
but
we know that firsthand. But recapping, those games, we're on to the Final Four. It's crazy, because like, in other sports, like in college basketball, when you get to the Final Four, it's such a huge deal. But again, there's so many teams. Like, Duke's there every year. Like Kentucky, they've been there. North Carolina, Villanova, Michigan, like, all these teams have been there. But in college lacrosse, like, there are so many teams that haven't even sniffed it before. Like, the top heaviness of college lacrosse is insane. Like, Rutgers, first time in the, like, kind of in the big dance now. Like, now you've ascended into that elite. Like, Loyola cracked through a couple years ago and they got it. Like, Denver a couple times. Like, it's so hard to get there. And I know it's been kind of a suck fest of Maryland, but they're there again. Like, they're the obviously they're the Alabama of lacrosse. I more so think they're the Warriors.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Back when they had Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Like, these guys, like, their attack shoots, and I'm like, that's going in every time.
Yeah.
Like, they murder corners. They don't just put it around you. Like, they shoot the shit out of the ball.
I thought, like, as a goalie, I sometimes I think about the guys that are playing now. It's like, me caught my cocky ass self. It's like, I wonder if I could like step in there and do better than this kid I'm watching right now. But I have no interest in stepping in the net against this Maryland team. They are so good, and their shooters are incredible. Like, and they play, like, getting into the matchup with Princeton. Like this should be the national championship game, because if Maryland rolls Princeton, then they play Cornell or Rutgers. They've owned Rutgers the last 2 years. Like, it's not even close. Yeah.
And then against Cornell, like, I don't think Cornell I think Maryland's defenders wipe out Cornell's attack.
Yeah, I think Maryland's defense can shut down anybody, and it's almost sad to see that nobody can really compete with them. Like Rutgers, I think Rutgers has a better chance against Maryland than Cornell does, and it's sad to say because Rutgers has already lost to them twice. Like, it's going to be the third matchup, but I still think they have a better shot against them versus Cornell, just because, like we were talking about, Cornell's still a young team, and like to your point, like we've seen some new teams break into this Final Four. Like, we haven't seen Cornell in this situation since Max Seabald in the national championship when they played Syracuse.
They haven't made it since they had Pinnell and Busick was on the team.
Yeah,
and Busick was on the team. So like, that's 2013. We graduated high school. So back when we were in high school, like, they haven't been there in a while. And then even Princeton, like 2004. But I want to just declare it the Maryland Invitational. That's what it should be next year. I think if you take Maryland's backups, like the guys on the bench, and you spread them out evenly on all the teams for like insight and all this stuff, I don't think it even matters. Like, Princeton, like, yeah, we've mentioned like Sam English, Chris Brown, like, okay, well, Zapatello and Makar, like, all right, those two, like, they're not going to score. So then your third guy has to beat Maryland's third guy, and that's not going to happen. And then like Princeton's defense, like, yeah, like, you know, solid defense. You played tough against Yale. Like, they're going to get 18 on you. And if Weirman's winning faceoffs easy, which he was pretty much, and, you know, this is a rematch where Maryland won 15-10 the first time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's and granted, Maryland went 70% at the X. If they go 50-50, they're still getting the ball and they're still going to score. Like,
yeah, I think it's weird to say, but I actually have Princeton plus 6.5 because of the earlier game this year. Like, I think looking at this team, I remember thinking about that game back when was that, March? Like,
yeah, or end of March, like March 26th. But it doesn't,
like, I just think
it doesn't matter. They're that good. Like, they just spanked the defending champs by 9 and probably didn't even do that much in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they didn't do anything in the first quarter. I mean, they're resting their starters. Like, I think there's a chance that Princeton can play with them, but you can't go in there confidently and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna be the ones that takes down Maryland. Like, I guess as a player you have to have that mentality, but it's hard to see. Like you said earlier, they're averaging 18 goals a game, and their defense is like trying to get into Fort Knox, like trying to break into Coach Kubikowski up in West Point. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Easier getting into America than it is to score on the Maryland's defense.
I mean, come on, we know it's easier to score.
Right.
Get into
so, I think like it's just insane. Like, Coach Tillman should win Coach of the Year like every year at this point. Like, he is Nick Saban of America. Like, I don't think he'll ever leave, because where do you go from there? Like,
I wouldn't. Why would you? Why would you ever leave?
Do you retire like after your 17th national championship? Like, do you just retire? Like, yeah, he's gotten to the championship and like they've lost, and you know, this is like his 8th Final Four. So, and he has 1 championship. So a little bit of the LeBron or like even the Jerry West curve. But like, they're gonna win this year. Like, unless they have a meltdown, like unless like the bus gets lost or like there's food poisoning on that team or like injuries, which I would never wish upon any team ever. Like, that's the only way you're stopping this team. Like, they're too good. And then
even if they did get injured, there's like you said, they have like the #1 recruiting class or like a top 3 recruiting class for the next 5 seasons. So, you know, those kids coming off the bench are going to be good. And they've also been practicing against these starters. So, like, even if an injury was going to happen, they're plugging in a guy who's a top 10 recruit who can probably paint every post and run up and down the field like a horse. Like, I just don't see a solution to beating that team. I just don't.
And, you know, I guess kind of the last good game we're really going to see this from the season is the Kirst Bowl between, you know, Colin and CJ, where like this Cornell Rutgers matchup, it's going to be interesting because both teams have, you know, Cornell has the face-off nod and I give Rutgers the goalie nod. But I think star power wise, like each team pretty even, like both very much dominant attack. Which Bartolo and Knobloch and Ross, and then like we mentioned the Cornell guys earlier, and kind of like their three versus these three. Like where do you get to? And I just don't think Cornell's ready. Like I don't think they have enough big game experience yet as a young team to beat this Rutgers team, who they have the entire Garden State behind them. Like I know Princeton's in as well, but like Rutgers, like that first game in the tournament, that place was packed. They led the attendance. And then last week, they were packed as well. So I think the Scarlet Knights are going to travel very well up to New Haven, Connecticut, or up to Hartford. And I think I'm not going to say they're going to blow them out, but they're favorites right now. I think they can kind of run away with it because getting over the hump to get to the Final Four, that was tough for them. Right. But now it's like they might know Maryland the best out of any team remaining. Yeah. Even though Princeton gave them a better dogfight, but it's tough to beat a team twice, tough to beat a team three times. But I think that goes out the window with Maryland. I think Rutgers plays well, like they can win, and they're gonna score goals. And we're gonna have to hear Anish talk about the NASCAR offense, and also like Quint not doing any of the games this weekend.
Okay, hold on. Pump the brakes. He had a death in the family.
Oh my! All right, I didn't know. I didn't know he had a death in the family. Sorry.
Yeah, you idiot. Yes, he had a death in the family. It's sad to see. It's sad to hear. We hope Quint comes back.
Yeah.
There's nothing like hearing Quint, Kark, and Anish
I was confused.
Memorial Day weekend.
Because they had Cotter with Boyle.
Okay.
And they had Kark with Anish. And I think Kark and Cotter are a better duo.
Even though I hate Carcaterra, I like Cotter, and I think they're a better duo.
You can't do any Kark slander because I was tweeting with Kark earlier, and I'm trying to get him on the show.
Yeah, okay, well we can get him on the show, but like Colin Coward does on his show, if you have beef with somebody, come on the show and let's work it out. He can come talk on our show, and I'm gonna give him my beef. I'm just gonna do it.
Well, I'm gonna say 3 things to look out for this entire weekend, because I think we're both agreeing it's going to be Maryland versus Rutgers in the finals. And I think Maryland, they might double up Rutgers in the finals, which would be a really stinky next Monday when we sit here and we're both really sunburned and like we're off of work and we're watching and it's good. Like it's good that lacrosse is on TV and it gets some love, but it's not going to be intense. But 3 things to look out for is, number 1, Brett Makar's from Yorktown, and so is Carcaterra. Like, that's getting brought up about how Makar got cut in, like, 5th grade. They're going to bring that up and how he's a tough, resilient kid. They're going to, over, under, I'm setting the line to 5, at least, shots of the Kirst family in the crowd. Okay, minimum of 5.
We're going to have to raise that to, 6.5. Is this for the entire weekend or just for Memorial Day?
No, just for the Kirst boys, just for the game.
Bowl? Okay, yeah, it's definitely around 6.5 then.
Yeah, and then you're gonna see, I think from the Princeton side, if PLL camp isn't there, they will show Michael Sowers in front of the Princeton alumni group. Like they're gonna zoom in on him a lot because he got some FaceTime on Saturday, and they were showing like the Princeton crowd was electric. I know the Terps travel well. Like I would travel too if my team was winning every single game.
Yeah.
But I think kind of wrapping this episode up, it's like we have a chance for a perfect season, or we have a chance for an all Ivy League final if somehow Princeton and Cornell both win, or we have a Big Ten final. And then we also could have a team win that hasn't won before with Rutgers getting in, or Princeton. Now they have 7 championships, and it's kind of wild that those are kind of the storylines that we're left with rather than the actual game.
Not even like it's just to add one more in there. What if Maryland loses? Like that's an all-time upset. Like everybody's been talking about how great this team is, but that's an all-time upset if somebody was going to take them out.
Maryland loses, you have to put this up there with the Giants beating the Patriots in that Super Bowl.
Yep. 2008 or 2011. They did it
2008
both times.
No, but when the Pats won. UMBC beating Virginia as a 16 seed and losing by 20 to UMBC. And then like
LeBron 3-1 against the Warriors.
The Warriors meltdown. I think you have to throw that in there.
Yeah.
And then I think you got to throw in, just from like a relative standpoint in college football, like Appalachian State beating Michigan in the Big House. Like,
come on, Michigan is not. Stop. That's such a homer statement. That couldn't be more of a homer statement. Michigan has never been close to the pinnacle of its sport like these teams are.
Most wins all time, but that's another debate.
For like 1800.
But that's going to wrap up this episode. I think overall what we've seen is just Maryland's a machine. I expect them to win each game. We'll be tweeting out picks, but as of right now, like I'm going to lean towards whatever, like Maryland and Rutgers. It's going to be a rematch. And then on Monday, post national championship, probably going to record then and have it out for you as soon as possible. But final send off here, T. Always a pleasure. We'll enjoy the games this weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Let's have a great weekend. Let's have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Subscribe, like the video, tell your friends. If you're working a 9-to-5 work from home, put it on the background, listen to it during lunch, let it play, and then let it play again. Let it play again.
And again, put it on loop. And, we're going to get a Twitter page soon because we're both on Twitter. We're going to try and shoot that up by this weekend.
Yep.
So follow us on Twitter, too.
Follow us on Twitter.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care.